Beloved viewers, I'm back, and I have to confess I'm a little bit grumpy, and that's because I was going to do two readings today. I did the first one about the meeting between Trump and Kim Jong-un, and I was really pleased with it, and the sound didn't come out. So that's a piss off, let me tell you. So now I've had to go back and get the other computer and so forth. So, and readings just aren't the same second time round. So I did go back and look at the visuals, and I've laid out the cards as they were. I'll just give you a little rundown first of my opinion of what's going on, which is, it's a funny thing, you know. I've always thought in the last 30 years or however long, probably more, that the US foreign policy on North Korea, and that's the same foreign policy we have with North Korea and Australia and the UK and Europe, and saying to first Kim Jong-un's father and then him, we're not going to talk to you unless you get rid of all your nuclear weapons. Now, that's not a very optimistic approach to talking with anyone. I mean, why would they do that? They're a dictatorship. They don't have a real economy. The only thing they've got is to prove their power to their own people and the world. I mean, would the US like it if someone said, I'm not going to talk to you unless you destroy your Navy and half your Air Force or something? You'd tell them to get fucked, wouldn't you? I mean, exactly. So it has stopped any dialogue happening all these years, all these decades. And suddenly, Trump accidentally has sort of stumbled on this idea of talking to the guy. And so it's kind of funny. So credit where credit's due. Dialogue before bombs. I don't think for 1 minute Trump's coming from a position of having really read up on North Korea and its deep, peculiar history or anything like that. He's just thrown it out of his lips, and Kim Jong-un has seized on it. But what I also think is interesting, that since the Winter Olympics and since the dialogue between North and South Korea, that's also unprecedented, has happened, this is a very good time to try and keep the conversation going. So for all those suffering in North Korea, I don't see it as rewarding Kim Jong-un. I think it's the beginning of a process, hopefully, that can give them a life down the track. So anyway, that was my general premise before I started this reading. Now, what the cards threw up was this. I'm on my bed here, so they might look a bit strange. So, kicking off, we have the card of oratory and diplomacy. It is about talking. Now, both these guys, you couldn't say are diplomats, because they've never had to be. They've run their own show. But the card in this context represents some sort of conversation. Now, not everyone's happy with the idea of this meeting going ahead. There's a lot of conflict around it. Also, I would say Trump and Kim Jong-un conflict, there's not a natural affiliation between these guys, right? One's 71, one's 26. One has all the power over a dysfunctional kingdom, and the other has too much power in what used to be a democracy until last year. Will be again. Okay, but more importantly, as I was just saying in the intro, every Secretary of State and their equivalent, every foreign officer and MI6 and everyone else has had this hard line against North Korea, talking to them before. So they would be spewing if this meeting goes ahead. It flies in the face of all the conventional ideas of punishing North Korea. So people aren't happy. However, the sun is shining on this endeavour in some way. So I just think it's a really interesting crossroads of history, the accidental president, that could start this. Mind you, can you imagine Trump at this mythical meeting? Everything has to be translated. He's got an attention span that is at its max at about 6 minutes, and he'll be sliding off his chair. But anyway, they'll go through the motions. And it is offering an invitation. That's exactly what's happening. Now, these two guys, they're both hard-nosed in different ways. This is the war horses, or the mercenary, right? So neither of them are ideological men. Now, that might sound funny in the case of Kim Jong-un, because North Korea is a highly ideological regime. It's all about everyone stepping one step to the left on Tuesday at 3 because I say so. It's that sort of regime. You could see the North Koreans at the Olympics all clapping in unison. But at the same time, he is young and he was born to it, so he doesn't know anything else. But I think he's got a whisper or a hint that if he opens up to another way of doing things, he could actually increase his wealth, which is what would be in it for him, increasing his prestige and wealth. Also, we know Trump is a mercenary. He just sells anything to the highest bidder. What they have in common, in a funny way, is Trump, even when he travels, just stays in Trump hotels and eats Trump food and wears Trump logo everything. He is a hermit. And so you've got Kim Jong-un, who's the emperor president of the hermit kingdom. North Korea is actually referred to as the hermit kingdom. And you've got Trump, who's a hermit by choice. He never seems to even go to a restaurant outside of his own stupid steak bars. Then there was this card, which again sort of bodes well. It's the card of interpersonal relationships. So although I don't think they'll like each other in any way, no matter what they say, they won't like each other. It's a bigger picture. What this meeting represents is bigger than the Trump persona. It's bigger for the world, this interpersonal connection. It's very interesting. Then I drew two more cards. And then I thought, oh, shame, I should have stopped on a positive note because I got this card, which is the Ten of Swords, the stabbing in the back. But the cards speak. And what I think this means is, what I was saying before, many people in the world, including protesters in South Korea, but certainly all the big diplomatic ambassador agencies of the world, are fucking furious at this. And they're going to do everything to try and stop it. All right. But this is the card of the educated man looking outwards, the world in their hands. I don't think it's either Trump or Kim Jong-un. I think it's the world's actually catching up with itself in a way of going, you know what, no one tried this in the last 30, 40, 50 years. Maybe we should give it a go. Now, why is that important? Well, I think it's, oh, there I am. I think it's very important because there's every chance this meeting won't happen, literally, between Trump and Kim Jong-un. Now, it's scheduled for May. I don't know if there's a day, but they're talking about May. Now, as we all know, you guys out there and myself, 2 days is a long time in Trump land, let alone 2 months. Anything could have happened. There's every chance this meeting might not happen. But because it's been put on the table, I think there's conversations with all these different powers and different countries who are fighting over it. And some people are beginning to say, well, there was conversations after the Olympics and so forth. Maybe it is time for dialogue, which is what this figure represents, looking out and looking across the water, symbolically being across the border and across the water from other countries. So I think that is very, very interesting. Now, part 2 of the reading was, because there's been stories, did Russia set this up? What's this about for Russia? And these are the cards I pulled. Just a moment, I have to look at my notes for what I got here, which was like that. Okay, let me show you. Okay. All right, so the question was, what was Russia's involvement in this, or what does Russia think about this? Now, when we say Russia, we mean Putin. So what does Putin think about this meeting with Trump and Kim Jong-un? So, sure enough, bang in the middle, we have Putin in this case. Now, remember, I've described to you often, every card has a spectrum from positive to negative. And the positive King of Wands is someone who's very wise and cares for people and is a very ethical person. And then we have the whole spectrum round to someone who's prepared to stamp out all opposition and tread on people. So I'll let you choose which end of the spectrum or which King of Wands is represented there by Putin. Now, these flanking cards, either side of the King of Swords, say to me very clearly, and I'll show you both together, Putin did not engineer this meeting. Putin doesn't want this meeting to happen. Putin hates everything about this idea, right? Because if there is an opening up of North Korea to normal trade and normal behaviour and stuff, it will not only expose the rip-offs, it will mean less money coming to Russia. Russia makes a lot of money from selling gas and arms and other things to North Korea, contravening the sanctions and everything else, right? There's a deep irony in this reading, I think. Putin actually feels hemmed in by the fact they have always said to the West, oh, we'll deal with North Korea, you know, we'll broker any conversations that may end up happening with North Korea or won't happen with North Korea. They controlled that space, right? And this takes the floor out from under Vladimir Putin. And if the West was smart, it would be talking a lot to North Korea, but also letting South Korea and China do the dialogue. Just let it happen. You don't have to actually do anything. Just let it happen. It might not be pretty, and yes, corrupt, filthy people will make huge amounts of money, and there will still be oppression, and there will still be repression. But most things are better than what the people of North Korea are looking at now. So Putin, I genuinely believe, was not behind this, and I didn't have an opinion before this reading. I hadn't read that. I've just seen glimpses in the paper, you know, is Russia behind this? But I hadn't read up on it, so I didn't know. But this says to me very clearly, no, he wasn't behind it, and no, he doesn't want it. So that's interesting. This card, which came up in the first half of the reading, again, was continued dialogue, right? And on top of that, the Ace of Cups, it would be extremely beneficial. The tension created by this lunatic situation in North Korea is holding up a huge part of the world. Not only are millions of people suffering, it distorts the relationship with China and both Koreas. It distorts the relationship with the West and Russia. It distorts the relationship with Russia and North Korea. This could be a much better outcome for Korea. There could well be opportunities here for people to have something resembling a life. And I only think that's a good thing. So it was quite disturbing. I'm sure those of you who saw the footage too of the North Korean delegation, you know, all clapping in time at the Olympics and everything. They're so terrorized and they're so brainwashed into supporting this state that represses them. Anything, hopefully, is an improvement from there. Now, by the time this uploads, there'll be an outcome in Pennsylvania. I'm really hoping Colin Lamb, is his name Colin Lamb? Oh, I really hope he gets up. If he does, I will do a reading on him. If he doesn't, I'll shed a tear for Pennsylvania. So, more power to the Democrats in Pennsylvania. Let's see what's going to happen there. All right, guys, thank you so much for those who have donated. I'm really thankful for that. And I appreciate your support, regular viewers. New viewers, I welcome you into the fold. I'll see you soon. Bye.